Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight, I have on the broadcast airwaves from the great Midwest, I have Mr. RDV himself. And tonight's movie we're going to be discussing, of course, is the big box office hit and fourth in the franchise. Of course, I'm talking about John Wick 4, the really popular action movie starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and a ton of other people. And that's one of the things, RDV, that as we get going into this movie, I want to bring up because, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the John Wick films for some of the things they do, but yet they do some things so incredibly well that when I watched this film, as long as it was, I have to ask myself, is this the best movie of the four? It's still probably the first one for me, but there was a lot that I liked here in John Wick 4. And my hint, for my short term topics here to talk about, bring up is I love Scott Adkins in here. But there's definitely a thing to it that I want to get into about what John Wick is and how we compare it to the practical martial arts types action films we like to cover here on the Extreme Movie Show. So let me ask you, what's your initial take going into this film? What'd you expect out of it? Did you get it? Just some quick bullet points here as people start to join.
I knew it was going to come to a conclusion because this was supposed to be the last chapter for John Wick. It's a really good conclusion of the overall giant story. 'Cause that's what John Wick is. It's basically starts through one and goes through four. It's basically a 4-part movie. As far as plot goes,
Right.
and like I said, I knew they were going to start using some of the newer guns because I follow Terror and Tentacle. I think it's called. Yeah, they're the ones that basically do all they have the gun range in Texas, where Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry, and pretty much everybody who's going to be in the movie using a gun goes down there and trains. So I seen some of the guns that they're introducing this, and I was just gonna I knew it was gonna be great for as far as action wise.
Right.
I did not know anything about the plot. I just know that from the last one, the third one, where he's shot and falls off the building. You know, uh, as far as this, I did not know who the villain was. I did know that Donnie Yen was in here. I didn't know what his part was. Lance Reddick, rest in peace, was in here. He said so, and then he had Rina Sawaya Mama or whatever it is. Yeah, whatever. She's basically a Japanese British singer.
Yeah.
She plays Akira in here. I knew that she was in here, and she's going to have some scenes in here too. So I was kind of excited to see what they're going to do with this because this started with a guy, his dog gets killed, and it just kind of escalated from there. He's the Baba Yaga. He's back in the business because of what he does. It just keeps trickling on, as far as his problems, So I was kind of looking forward to this because John Wick, for the most part, in the past 30 years, has been one of the top action films as far as using guns correctly. And just Tom Cruise is always like the big climbing this, scaling this, jumping on a plane. I'm not dismissing Tom Cruise in his Mission Impossibles, but it comes with actually using guns. It's Keanu Reeves. It's kung fu.
It's almost like a gun fu type of style
Yeah.
because the one thing obviously I think we can all agree on whether we like or don't like or think that it's silly or think they're awesome is the fact that there's a hell of a lot of choreography in here. And I'm not just talking the gunplay and extended long sequence shots, which I'm partial to liking because again, if it's a movie, I don't care if the plot's paper thin as long as I kind of like the character and they do some creative new spins to it and all that. And so what this movie I think excels at are some of those things. One, choreography is second to none. There's definitely some scenes I'm going to bring up here in a minute. There's one or two side characters I loved a lot. This movie did a really good job of saying, you know what, if this is going to be end of John Wick, which I'm not so sure, I'm a bit skeptical on that. We know there's going to be spinoffs, right? But I really also appreciated how they introduced some of the characters in here. I'll just get my complaints out of the way so we can kind of ignore that and focus on what we enjoy, which is typically what we do here on the Extreme Movie Show for the most part. The movie was long, which I didn't have a problem with. It just felt like the chunks in between them were extremely slow, and I had a little bit of problem, even though it's a Skarsgård, and I always give a Skarsgård, some extra room. I just thought, really, a wimpy ass Parisian bad dude, like I haven't seen this before. It's like Christoph Waltz and Bond, absolutely 0% terrifying or whatever. And I understand that's not the focus of the movie, so it doesn't bother me that much. But again, what this movie excels at, it's its strength and its weakness because it's so damn visually good to look at in a lot of the sequences that you're willing to overlook the fact that it's kind of a boring movie to me. The first movie, I'll say this, I really liked the idea. It was a different character. It was low budget. You know, the idea of, I guess, his wife and or his dog or whatever happened at the beginning died, so he seeks revenge. And then we find out some more of this world building in the next couple of films. And it almost seems like the world building was just conveniently written in to kind of explain stuff. I don't know if that's fair or not or true, but again, kind of don't care about it. I love the suiting up. I love all this kind of stuff. But again, one of the biggest problems I have, and we've talked about this before with action films, is you can't have somebody that weighs 120 pounds taking on everybody ninja style and defeating them and all that. And not that that happens in here, but the beating John Wick takes physically and just gets up from and then squashes a guy. It's like it ruins it for me because I know that's what's going to happen 3 movies in. And then here it's like, okay, it's not that much fun because I know what the ending's going to be. And even though I'm enjoying the trip, it's like a bit of a letdown in a way. So again, don't want to shit on it too hard because it was enjoyable. I will say that. But what do you think about him and being this mythical hitman creature and the damage he can take and that kind of part to it?
As far as the whole thing, from the very beginning, they set him up as being the best assassin there is, the Baba Yaga. Everyone's afraid of him. You know,
he's the boogeyman.
Yeah, basically.
He's what comes bumping the knife.
And yes, now, you know, he's the main star. They're going to have to prop him up. It's just like, you know, you have John McClane, you know, or Bruce Willis. You're going to prop him up and make him kind of like bulletproof in a sense, you know.
Right.
He did get beat up a little bit in the first earlier films.
Right.
But going through this, like I said, the whole mythos behind him being like the deadly thing, that was their whole thing from the very beginning. And it makes sense to have him going through this and just taking out mercs for hire, because if you watch any movie where guys have henchmen, the henchmen are never like the best. If anything, if realistically anything with comic books or TV shows, whatever, the henchmen should quit because they're always going to get annihilated or killed, either killed by the hero or killed by the guy they're working for. But
that's true.
The thing about the henchmen in this, you know, these are the guys we talk about. These are the stunt performers, and yes. As I said, I love seeing them. Now, logically, you said, like, you know, there's no way this guy would not take any scratches and all. He'd get shot, you know. He'd be kind of like, you know, beat up, you know, because we see a few scenes in here where he actually gets thrown across, you know, like he lands off, you know, a couple balcony. He'd be hurt, you know, and he'd have some seriously injured, you know, thing. But I look past that because I look at basically like any game I play. Have you ever played the game Max Payne?
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's the same thing, pretty much.
It
just
is.
take some painkillers and you get
it
out.
Is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, I look past that as far as him not getting seriously injured, because there's a lot of times he would have been like, oh yeah, realistically, this guy would have died. His gun would have jammed, you know. When he's going to, like, when you see in the fourth movie where he basically he runs out of bullets, and he takes apart the gun and uses that as weapon, each part, you know, or they're throwing the actual chassis of the chassis of the gun, hitting a guy in the face, and then stabbing another guy with, you know, with the spring clip, you know. He said it's really cool to see this in there. Now, I want to talk about, though, they introduced a new gun here, which I've been following, Terran Tentacle. It's one that they actually helped make, and this is like one of the sweetest guns you can buy for handguns. It's called the Pit Viper from Borrowing King. Basically it's a 9mm with 21 round capacity magazine built in compensator, so there's no muzzle flip. You know, so that means that when you shoot it, it doesn't bounce back at you. You don't get the recoil.
Right.
Which makes it that much. It's basically designed for
more
people.
accurate.
Yeah, designed for people who have problem handling guns. You know, shooting. I watched Joe Rogan fire this gun, and it is, look up the video. Joe Rogan firing the TTI Pit Viper. Mm-hmm. It is just like, he's like, dude, this is black magic. I hit every single target with it. It's versus the regular handgun. So that is a fun gun. He gets this when he's in the train station. You see him at the beginning of the movie. He's holding it. Yeah, that gun is awesome. I said I'm a gun enthusiast. You know, gun to me, like, yes, they are tools. You know, but you can also use them if you can use them for shooting ranges. Just firing them. It's just fun. The other gun you see in here, and he leaves it later on, he picks up, is a TTI Dracarys Gen 12, which basically it's like almost like a single, it fires it basically it fires it's what's when you firing the dragon breath rounds. You should see that in the
Yes.
movie.
Yes. That's one of the
Yes,
scenes I want to
it's
talk about. Go ahead.
this is a rifle, and it's I love it because it's a 10 round magazine, and like I said, and it has as accuracy. It looks like a rifle, but it's actually like a shotgun kind of like thing. Because it fires bigger bullets, um, in a sense, but it's a 12 gauge. Um, yes, there's scenes here where he shoots this thing at people, and it just you see them light on fire. When I saw dragon's breath, which are legal in some states, because
Yeah.
it's you don't die, you are on fire throughout the till you burn to death. You know,
One of the things I
yeah,
want to mention about that scenes, I think, like I say, as more people are piling in the chat, and I want to say, hello to everybody, especially the newer people that are here.
yeah,
Got any comments? Put them in there. We'll be sure to take a look at them here. I think the thing with the action films that you and I both seem to love, like we always mention, we start off with the '80s as the decade and branch off from there and do different things, and we love action. And we both love practical effects. We also like seeing people that are like masters of their craft, and so the fact that Keanu for a very long time has had a lot of gun training and kung fu and all that stuff is cool because he's believable in that the way he moves, he looks like he's a tall, slender kind of guy, tall relative for Hollywood, maybe 6'1", let's say, and he's been doing this for a while. So
yeah,
even though we know what the template is, the fact that they're varying up some of the scenes that they give us is tremendous. So, like for me, the scene that I wasn't expecting, I want to talk about two of them here a little bit later in the film.
yeah,
I love the Dragonfire rounds because I didn't know what to expect, didn't know how much that was real, and it was almost video game-ish. And I think it was Hardcore Henry. That was the I think third
yes,
person parkour type movie that we reviewed here some years back. That was an interesting take. Don't know how successful that can be long term, but it was kind of cool in its own way. And the parkour is always neat to me. So when you see him going up there and bounties placed on him towards the end, he's got to get to Sacred Kura at a certain time. So it's the classic countdown scenario. And so everybody's coming out of the woodwork trying to kill him. And you can talk about if it's stupid or makes sense. All right, let's get past all that. When he gets into this building, it's kind of like the pause reset scenario, and he goes to the new weapon, and then
it's
it
Top
fires
Gear,
off
man.
these rounds, and
Yeah,
it's like one long shot as he's going up the stairs, and then it's stepping into this room and out, laying down, and the pure timing of charging. And I'm sure there were several shots there that they spliced together. I don't care because it was the editing on it was just breathtaking. And much like Top Gun last year, to me, probably should have been more seriously considered for Best Picture. And of course, nobody takes the Oscar seriously. It was one of those things that, technically speaking, you go, Jesus, they gave us something we never saw before in planes. Well, John Wick, I felt in this movie did as far as the choreography, because not only was this scene exceptional, the lead up scene either right before or after this, and everyone's going to talk about the stair scene. That's cute. But the scene that really makes it to me is when he's near the Arc de Triomphe, which is, I believe, the west side of Paris. And the
mhm,
Sacred Coeur is kind of on the west side, but like west, northwest a little bit. So he's got to make his way up there. There's a scene where, because the arc is this giant roundabout, it's a magnificent landmark if you've ever been there. So all
yeah,
these cars are coming, and it's one of those things where they don't necessarily have lanes, so they're all moving around. And so he's cutting across it, and all these people are coming after him. So he's fighting them. They're shooting. Cars are getting in the way. People are getting flipped. It's like Frogger, and it's
yeah,
actually breathtaking and exciting to watch. Like, oh my god! And I got to tell you, these fucking stuntmen, the hell with Keanu, they took a friggin' beating for him. I thought, you know what? You must have punched your stuntman card by saying, I can't fucking wait to be on a John Wick movie, because we see a lot of good collisions with cars and bodies flying off of motorcycles and stuff. And, outside of Amy Johnson, who, we commended many times here on the Xtreme Movie Show and some of her films, I'm thinking this would be great. She's done stuff with Scott Adkins, who I'll mention here in a little bit. But that whole scene towards the end, it's like, okay, that's what I'm paying my money for, because I want to see a good 10, 15, 20 minutes of this kind of creative action that flows
yeah,
seamlessly, looks great, and I get to see bodies getting the hell beat and almost look real doing it. They did a fantastic job with it, and that's, to me, the highlight of the John Wick film
yeah.
here.
Going from this movie, it starts, like I said, it starts in Japan, where basically we see another their Japan's version of the Continental, and anybody housing basically John Wick is being condemned, and so because he's excommunicated, they're not allowed to host him. So this whole guy goes up, takes his whole entire. He's basically a friend. His character's name is Shimazu, and he basically, yeah, he says, tells his daughter, he's one of my friends. you know uh friends are someone, not acquaintance. Friends are someone, no matter what happens, you stick by them. you know Donnie Yen's character Kane used to be tight with all three of them. All three of them were tight, like him and John Wick, and Shumaza. But Kane, they find out that basically he's being blackmailed into this, basically to take out John Wick because they said if you don't do this, we'll kill your daughter. And the interesting about Donnie Yen's character Kane in this, he basically gave up his eyesight so they'd spare his daughter, so they let her be, not kill her.
Right.
And he's blind to this, but he still uses like sound as far as they're tapping on this, or he even has. There's a cool scene here in the Japanese basically tower. He's in the kitchen side. He's walking through. In order to detect if someone is coming near him, he puts these little doorbell things. So if somebody goes near, it goes ding dong. He slaps him out. He slaps him out, and he uses that for when he hears him. He just shoots there and kills the guy. Donnie Yen, you see, he's obviously basically a very important part of the movie. He's there to the very end with John Wick. Bill Skarsgård is basically he's part of this like elite upper class family, and they're basically he's hired with basically the task of bringing in John Wick and killing John Wick, and I love Bill Skarsgård. Now I usually love the big tough bad guys, but I love the arrogant little pricks too, And
the
that's
weasels.
what he plays. Yeah,
the slimy bastards.
He plays a slimy weasel in here, and at first I thought this was a guy from Ragnarok on Netflix, because he kind of looks. He almost has.
It kind of reminds you of that.
Yeah, so he is just a slimy bastard. You see him how he deals with another actor who he's brought in here, the guy who has a dog. His name's Tracker. He has a dog in here, and he basically like Tracker says like, I'm gonna make a deal with you. Like, yeah, I can find John Wick. He's like, okay, and he slams a knife in the guy's hand, and this is how sadistic Bill Skarsgård his character is. He says like, there's two types of men. There's one who will pull the knife out, and then there's the other man who will just pull his hand out. And he's like, which one are you? It's like, and you see Tracker just pull his hand inch by inch painfully from the knife.
Yeah, I just thought that was stupid because
I love it.
I like him pulling the hand out. Yeah, that's cool as shit. But the whole setup of there's two kinds of men. One who must. That's like, shut up, Bill. You know what the fuck you're talking about, you little tweed wearing doofus. I mean, come on, bro. Tracker was a good Max, and he had the
dog.
Yeah, now I don't know technically if that's a German Shepherd, like my Czechoslovakian shorthead Reds, Max and Daisy. It could have been in Belgian. I'm not quite sure. We don't do research here on Xtreme Movie Show generally. We like to just talk off the cuff. So if you guys know something and you want to talk about, feel free to chime in there. But the fact that he had it, I love dog violence, especially when it's not on a dog, when a dog's perpetrating it generally, aka man's best friend. But that was a really good character. And he looked, despite him looking like a homeless guy on the set of an old John Carpenter film, right?
Yeah,
the guy looked like he knew what he was doing too. So I appreciate the fact that he looked competent. He didn't look like some cartoonish jack off that put on 20 pounds and grew a beard and said, okay, now I'm a badass. The guy looked the role, and I don't know him. I don't know what he's in, but he looked competent. I was like, he's pretty good. And I want to talk about Donnie Yen since you brought him up.
Yeah.
We've covered some Donnie Yen films here on Xtreme Movie Show, and we've gone to a lot of different countries with a lot of different films, men, women, different styles, and what we like and appreciate and how it's different. The thing with Donnie Yen is one thing I give him credit for, because he knows a shit ton of weapons and martial arts and all that, is a lot of times we forget that I don't really care if somebody's on the sauce. The dude's like fucking 60, and I don't care that they gave him the turtleneck / I'm blind, swordsman kind of look. It worked. And I thought he held his own on there without overtaking it or just being, a bitch or whatever. You knew that they were going to kind of butt heads at some point or work together, and we got that. And so it was the anticipation that we had early on, and we see his competence early on with the sword, and it's like, that's pretty cool. Because blind swordsman's movies, let's be honest, it's hokey, but there's something about them we always love. I mean, let's just be honest. So I really appreciated Donnie Yen in this, and almost anything that I've seen with Donnie Yen. I mean, I really liked him in that. I was like, go figure. Because some of the Ip Man stuff, even though it's kind of cool, I kind of don't. It's we've talked about that before. But here, this is the kind of Donnie Yen I want to see.
Yeah. I said and I love a Tracker. He carries he has a Marlin model in 1894, basically modified by Mad Pig Customs. You look at it, it is just basically it looks badass. I'm like, is he carrying a shotgun? No, it's a rifle. And it's just like you see him use it later on. It basically shoots 44 magnums.
Yeah.
The equivalent of that. Basically, it's the same size of bullets. And dude, I like his character through this. He's kind of playing both sides of this. But he kind of switched sides after John Wick saves his dog.
Yes, that was cool. That was one of my favorite little plot devices in the movie. Because this guy's like Han Solo. He's like kind of a cool guy. Is he an anti-hero? Is he not? He's hunting because he wants the bounty. I don't know how much we really know about the guy or can trust him, but we don't initially hate him, right? But we see that he's competent. He might be able to do the job. He kind of does find John and says, I'll let you go because it's not enough money or whatever. So you're not sure. And then after he gets screwed over with the whole stupid, hand test or whatever like that, you can take the pebble from my hand. Then you may leave. That kind of test. And then he jacks up the price of the bounty or whatever. Yeah. He's getting John Wick and him are aiming the guns at each other, and the guy's getting ready to kill the dog, and you're like, you better not fucking kill that dog. And then he does it, and he looks, and you're like, okay, he's going to be on his side. Fuck yeah, that's good. Give it to me.
So the overall plot is that John basically figures if he can get his get established by a family, he can challenge Bill Skarsgård to a duel.
The old ways.
And I love this. I love because like Ian McShane, and this is a huge spoiler. If you haven't watched this, I recommend come back. Lance Reddick character shockingly dies in this.
Yeah,
which is weird because they filmed this before he died in real life.
It's not a big build up either. You're like, no, really?
But they go in like because at the beginning of the movie, him and Lance Reddick and Ian McShane walk into basically Bill Skarsgård's room, and he says hey, I shot. It basically says like you are embarrassment to this, you made a mockery of this, this whole entire thing. You are now excommunicated. And he's like, and he basically he's like, well, give us a second chance. People believe in second chance, and Ian's trying to charm him, and he basically kills Lance Reddick and then blows up the hotel in New York. So basically, John would basically had to go with the help of Lawrence Fishburne, I think his name is. They go to Paris, but first they go to Berlin though. He goes to Berlin. He has to basically go get his old family and have them basically bring him back. And it takes place in a church. It's very cryptic and all kind of like this. It's kind of old school ways. And they're like, well, my uncle got killed because of you. So she basically says, she's the head of family, go kill this guy. And like, okay, we'll go to Berlin. I'll kill this guy. And it's freaking Scott Adkins. You see on Rob's icon. He looks like, if you watch the Batman movie with Matt Reeves' Batman movie, you saw how Colin Farrell was transformed, the Penguin.
Yeah,
they put him in like a fat suit like in this, but he still was able to move like like smooth like butter, man. It was awesome. Yes, Eric, I know you're trying to make it funny there.
That never stopped dead people from being in commercials.
No,
easy, that, bro.
I'm just saying it was ironic though that as like I did not expect that they had to die in this movie. I had no one put this, so it was just kind of crazy that he actually died in the movie. And then
let me ask you this: did you know that was going to happen?
No, of course not. How would anybody know? They don't spoil
Then they kept a lid on it because usually stuff like that kind of they tease or it sneaks out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that was considered when Lance Reddick was just shot and died in the scene. That was that really took me back. I was like, dude, this died in real life, and like they actually went with it. They didn't try to change it. They just left it in. I was like, that was kind of like, okay, all right. If they would have tried to edit it, it would have made no sense, the plot. But like I said, I did like the fact, like you said, like the whole Scott Adkins club scene here. Now he kills in there. Now this is the thing too. Is like this is allowed, like a lot of club. It's outdoor stuff. There's waterfalls, everything. Everybody's got loud music. The house music going. No one can hear the gunfight, the gunshots.
Yeah.
and then people, because he basically we see Tracker there, we see Kane pops up too, and John Wick. He's like, oh, and Atkins. He's like, I got all three of you here. Let's play poker. And of course he cheats. He's like, because I get because he won. I get to choose John Wick. He decides, But like I said, John Wick ends up basically chasing him, and we're led to believe that Scott Adkins' character is a coward. You know,
No, he is not.
he gets shot in the ass twice. But it
This
was
is.
it
Go
was
ahead. I'm
good.
sorry.
I was to say this was a really good scene, good fight scene here, physical hand-to-hand combat.
I want a spinoff with Scott Adkins' character, and I can't remember the dude's name, but when I saw this fat-fingered, chubby thing in this really cool suit that wasn't so disgustingly,
His
over the
name's
top,
Hilla.
something like you see on Netflix,
Yeah.
and he's talking like this, and he's got that grill going and all that, and we're going to play a round of cards, and it's like, what the fuck, bro? Okay, all right, this is whatever. And I was getting so irritated, and then I went, wait a minute, I know those eyes, I know that voice, there's a little accent to it, and I went, oh my effing G, that is Scott friggin' Adkins. And I didn't know he was in the movie because I don't really look at
Yeah,
trailers too much
same
and all
here.
that. And so when they start fighting and you see this rather calorically surplus individual do like these Scott Adkins kicks, because Scott Adkins is a flippity floppity guy, but he's got a decent physique, and he's an 80s inspired martial arts kind of guy. He's got a great podcast. I enjoyed listening to that. We've seen a lot of his films too. We haven't talked about many of them, but like him and Amy Johnston have fought, and they've had some good scenes. He's the kind of guy that you're like, he's a stuntman that's good enough to be an action star, but the way action films are today, you don't get films like you were. Like in the 80s or 90s, this guy'd be all over the friggin' place. And in here, when they're fighting, this is where, of course, you got the Berlin Club and all the chicks dancing and all that. You got to have clubs and waterfalls because it makes no sense. And that's perfect. And the music playing and the lights and him falling and hitting himself and almost dying, but not. And you're just like, oh my fucking God. But then when they come down for round two with a little delay, this was like, all right, now I got a goddamn film on my hands. And seeing him just do these kicks and stupid stuff, because Scott can
Yeah.
flat out kick. I mean, this was entertaining. This scene was tremendous. I love the look on his face. I pop in every time I see him. Sometimes when somebody does a role so good, you're like, that motherfucker is so evil. I hate him. He's good. Then there's other times you're like, no, this guy's a twerp. I don't want to see him. Get the hell off my screen. Then you're like, this guy's having fun with the role and he's good. Buy me, I want to buy a ticket. This character was incredible. I mean, it really was.
Yeah, it literally took like everything just to kill this guy. And in a sense, he was like a Kingpin's lesser known brother.
But not as gross.
Yes. And then he said he finally falls on the stairs and snaps his neck, and that's how he dies.
Yeah. It's kind of gross.
He got shot a couple of times and he still wouldn't die.
I know.
How much blubber does he have? So after this, you see John Wick basically needs proof of death. He just goes in there, he just pulls on his gold teeth in the front here and pulls a tooth out.
He's doing this to get back in with the family, so
Yeah.
to create the marker so he can go back and create the duel thing, which we'll talk about here in a moment as we finish up.
So I love I said they go. So then it leads them back after this. After he's in Berlin, he leads them back over to Paris. And I just like I love this is before we get the scene with the we talked about where the cars dodging the cars, but basically because you can see Ian McShane walk in and he's like this smug look in his face, like basically fuck you to like to Bill Skarsgård, because now he's like yeah, John Wick challenges you to a duel. He's like, you can't do that. He's not part of a family. He's like, he's got a family. Old rules. And he's a smug. He just turns the tables on the little frick, and this is like, and on top of this, I want my hotel back. So which will come back later in the play because he said he wanted basically, John Wick wants his freedom, and he also asked for so that Donnie Yen's character and the guy and the daughter could be free from the life, never have to work at the table at all, because John Wick was basically told by Ian McShane, says, dude, you're never gonna kill the table. The fact you made this far is just pure bullshit luck.
Yeah. There's always an outlier with these things.
So you talk about how he hasn't died yet. He entered, like they address it in the movie.
Yeah.
But did you notice the subway in Paris when John Wick gets off?
Huh?
That is basically a nod to the Matrix.
Yep.
Yeah. And I gotta say, speaking of the Matrix, I love the John Wick franchise more than I love the Matrix. Matrix was cool for as far as the CG side and the plot, but I just love action movies more. This is more of an action movie. It's basically like Max Payne on steroids. If they made Max Payne into a movie, John Wick would be Max Payne. Not the Mark Wahlberg crap we got, which had nothing to do with the games. So anyway, so because of this, he basically goes to Paris. He gets the new jacket and the suit, it's got Kevlar on it. He uses that. He has to go, like you said, dodging through traffic, and he's basically almost getting killed. He gets hit by a car a couple times though, at least once. Gets up, gets through, gets on a motorcycle, drives away, and then he gets chased. And he shoots the motorcycle, explodes on the guy, and then this is where we get to the scene we were talking about before, the Dragon's Breath. Yes. He goes in this abandoned like a mansion, so it would be remodeled. And I love how they go in this. He's basically taking out guys as he come in, shooting them, taking their guns, shooting them again. Because he's only got the Glock at this point. He's basically he hasn't got the actual the rifle yet, the shotgun. So when he finally gets the shotgun, they do the top view, and I love it. It shows like all 4 rooms. It's and they show us the top, and as he goes from each. It just looks really beautiful. It's cinematic. And he basically starts shooting the Dragon's Breath 1, 2, 3, 4, and this and you see this guys. This is overkill, but beautiful overkill. This is what I would do, and this is where you say it just basically makes you feel like a video game. At this point, it kind of does, and I'm upset that I can't play a John Wick video game like this because it would be awesome.
But, yeah, and the thing with Scott Adkins' character is that it really jumps out at you, but they do a good job with these side characters. I think he had a lot of fun doing this. Frankly, I got my money's worth watching Scott Adkins and them have a really nice, long, drawn-out fight. Stuff going on in the club with waterfalls and people ignoring gunshots and violence. Yeah, that's pretty standard, especially if you have Florida Man stuff going on like I do. Zero issues with it all. It's really crazy, over the top stuff. And you know what? They went for it. And they knew what they were doing, so I liked it a lot. I will say this: everyone talks about the stair scene where they go up a couple hundred steps, I think, through the sacred core at the end. Which is, if he's not there at the appropriate time, I think 6:02 or 6:03 a.m. in the morning at sunrise for their old-fashioned duel.
Yeah.
So the evil Skarsgård decides, well, let me just up this bounty and everybody kill him so he can't make it, and then I win by default. So he has a proxy, obviously, when he gets there, and they go through their things. I'm leaving some details out specifically.
Yeah.
But the kind of the dumbest thing I didn't like about the movie was this last little scene, and all I'm going to sit there is when Ian McShane, the handler, says, you arrogant little asshole, he didn't shoot. It was so obvious and so stupid. It's like, really? Skarsgård, are you that dumb? It just kind of cheapens a little bit to me, because to your point, like you started off here tonight, is that allegedly this is supposed to be the last one. I think because it's doing so well at the theaters, we know there's going to be spinoffs, at least 1, if not 2.
2 spinoffs.
His character may be in some of those as well. But again, we don't have a body, and even if we do have a dead body, that doesn't mean we still can't have him coming back to life or whatever. I don't think this is the end of John Wick as far as the main one. I think there's probably at least a 5 in there, even if it's just retro or whatever. I don't see him just showing up as a supporting role in some of these other films. I think he will show up in other films. I still think 4 or 5 years he makes another one, whether it's something different. And they definitely, I think, to your point, decided they're going to try to supposedly end it in here and introduce enough plot lines and stories and characters that at least one of them will latch onto, where they can then support that moving forward, which is always the smart play.
Branching from the 3rd film, they're gonna there was not Halle Berry, but there was Ana de Armas. It's supposed to be a prequel, not a prequel, but a pass within the franchise, and then she's gonna basically, it's called Ballerina. She's gonna be in that. She's gonna be the lead character in that, and then John Wick's gonna show up in there because it's before, I guess, for either 4 or 3. Right around there, and so as far as in the timeline. So, and then also they're going to do it's called hotel. I forget what it's called, Concierge, whatever.
Continental, was it?
Continental, yeah, that's it. Thank you. Continental. That's going to be the other show they're going to do. Ballerina's the movie. Continental, and I'm not sure. There were rumors they were going to do a spinoff with Donnie Yen, whose character Kane, who actually does get away to go with his daughter. But the girl who played Akira, who Donnie Yen killed her father, that he was the leader of the Continental and basically in Japan, she wants revenge against him. And he basically said, he's like, I'll be waiting for you. You get to see it's one of the end credits where going up to him. And all, so I am curious to see. I mean, I like seeing Dunn again with more stuff. I mean, I'm curious to see what's going to go on with that, whether that's a one and done movie or a TV series or whatever. Like I said, I just want to do this. Now, the character to me that stood out the most, because I just did not, it just didn't fit in here, was Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown was like,
Yeah,
he hated his Bill Sperry
I'm like,
Skarsgård.
you're still in your Dexter mode.
Every time I hear Clancy Brown, I either hear Mr. Krabs or hear Lex Luthor from the Superman cartoons. So it's like I can't take him seriously. He's like, and at the end, he's like, you're like, okay, he's basically he's the referee, basically the duel, And at the end, he just like, he's like, okay, he's kind of like, you stupid prick, basically says to the kid or something like that. This guy's great, and then leaves. Yeah, I mean, kind of a sad ending as far as we know. It's he's buried next to his wife, but we don't know. There's no body. If he really wanted to, he could resurrect the character.
Yeah.
This is John Wick is basically Keanu's best, to me personally, his best character he's done in all his movie roles.
Yeah, people joke about Keanu, like, whoa, heavy, dude.
I
And that's
know,
the extent of his
dude.
acting ability. And I've said before, you don't necessarily have to be an actor to be in a film. We know this. A lot of times it's that small world of Hollywood. But Keanu seems to come across or has portrayed himself as a likable individual, and who really knows unless you've had some interaction with him. But
So
it's just one of those things where people like Keanu, so he's got enough under his belt since going back to the 80s where people are going to like him, even if he's a little dopey or airheaded. He's done some stuff. So, again, I'm not the biggest fan of the John Wick films. And the reason why is because I just get exhausted because it's the same thing over and over, a gazillion bullets, a gazillion bodies. And I don't want to spend 2 hours of watching, a bunch of jabronis, get shot while he takes really no damage and there's no payoff for it. I mean, so
he did break his fingers when he fell out. He fell out of the building.
excuse me, but yeah, I mean, it's just, and I'm always the one that says if you're going to go over the top, do it, be extreme. And they did. I think they were successful in this, so I can override that for this film because I actually really enjoyed, like I say, a lot of key sequences and sub characters. I I came away more impressed about this film than I think I was going to because 3 was a bit of a snooze fest to me. 2, I barely remember. I liked 1.
So
But that being
ranking.
said, to go back to originally what we talked about, and then we'll get our finishing thoughts going on, is this. This is pretty much the de facto standard for action movies. I would say this and the Mission Impossible franchises. There's very little of anything else there too. So when you want to see martial arts, you're not necessarily going to get those in I would say the Mission Impossible is you get more of the stunt stuff. Here you get both. So I appreciated that they went balls to the wall and filled this with a crap ton of stuff, and they did a really good job at like 95% of it. It really is that
Yeah.
particular where you and I are going, give me more action films, even if they're ninja grade B movies. I want them.
Yes, like I said, GoldenEye, if you go back and watch it today, it is kind of cheesy,
Yeah.
but it's still better than half the crap they're releasing today. I love the big explosions. I love the guns, the bullets flying. The different kind of guns, the shotguns, whatever, knives. Martial arts like that. Especially love this movie. Stands up. The reason it stands up more to me is because the fact how basically it's just how he handles the guns, takes them apart. And as far as he's always reaching for another gun instead of just having unlimited ammo.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
true.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Little
constantly
details.
and you see him where he's running and he's basically reaching his side pocket, grabbing his holster, grabbing another clip, and popping it in, and releasing the other one. He basically trained on to do that. It's not just like zoom away from Keanu's face and we'll show a stunt double running and doing it. Like
Yeah, and it's true because those little details, unless you have an eye for it or you're a gun enthusiast or don't know to look for it, you won't see it. But to your point, when
yeah,
when you're shooting, you know what your bullet count is, so you're already reaching for the other clip and a little bit of cover as you're finishing off, so you have almost a seamless transaction between
also yeah.
reloading.
Also, these movies are pro gun. They're not anti gun. So I love the fact that like there's that they get so much flack. Like, it is he's using a gun. And it's like, well, yeah, guns exist. It's like imagine if somebody kills him with a golf club all the time. Well, we can't use golf clubs. They're evil.
Yeah, I don't even look at it from that point of view because I just look at it as a silly action film with a ton of bullets and some
But,
great choreography. I mean, it is
quickly,
that entertaining.
what's your ranking? for
Well,
these?
I haven't seen the others since they came out,
Oh,
so it's been a while. Right now, my initial take would probably be the first movies is the best. This would be a close second, and then probably number John Wick 2 would be number 3, and John Wick 3 would be number 4. What about you?
for me, it's 4. Uh, then we go to the 3. Oh, no, sorry, 4, 1, 3, and 2.
4, 1, 3, 2. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see it. Yeah, this movie's doing well at the box office. People want to see a good action film. They don't want it to have a lot of messaging behind it. They just want to go and be entertained. You're going to get that. This film's definitely worth checking out. Any other final thoughts there, RDV?
Just that all the guns you see in this movie are available to the public. You can, as far as buy them. They're not machine guns. They're rifles you see
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So, and they said like these are gas powered. Some of these rifles and the shotguns they are smoother as far as firing. And like I said, if you're a gun enthusiast, you love going to the shooting ranges and just shooting guns, man. You know, dude, they're awesome.
Yeah, so just some quick housekeeping notes, and we'll call it a night here. Obviously, we just finished episode 3, where Pines on the Xtreme TV part, where we're going episode by episode of different shows. So that had just dropped recently. Our schedule over the next 2 weeks with Easter coming up and some other outside comments from some of us is still going to remain the same, but we may have to take a break for a week on one thing, but replace it with something else. Not sure exactly. We're getting ready to determine what's going to go on Sunday and Tuesday. So again, if you guys have requests, specific things you want us to tackle, take a notice. One of the short ones that's been on the list for a little bit, we're going to be tackling here real soon, is James Caan's movie from Michael Mann called Thief, which I'll go on record as saying it's as good or better than Heat or Collateral, both movies which I enjoy, and also Michael Mann films, I believe. So that's definitely something for you guys to kind of take a look for. I think it might be on Tubi right now as
Collateral,
well.
is that the one with Arnold?
No, Collateral, Tom
I'm thinking,
Cruise.
I'm
You know
thinking of the
that,
other one,
fucker.
Arnold.
No, I know that. Not that one. No, but it's a safe crack one, and James Caan, I think it's his best performance. I can say that. Brian's Song is up there as well, but that's another one I've been wanting to do for a while too. So we'll see how it goes, guys. Obviously, thank you guys for listening. Letting other people know that we exist here. You guys spend some time with us is always appreciated. We enjoy that. We just like to talk about stuff, not rail too hard on it, and just get a little picky about certain things that we like or don't like, and compare it to other things and all that. So, like I say, you got anything, let us know. Otherwise, have a good night. Take care, and as always, stay extreme.
Go watch this movie.
Go get wicked, bro. Good night.